Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot right here, hopefully your favorite official content creator for The First Descendant, and today, what I'm going to do is go through all of Gley's builds with you, update them for you, but keep in mind that this is a summarized video, okay? You won't be able to see gameplay for each of these particular builds. If you have something to ask on stream. I'll happily showcase it to you, or you can consult the older videos where I've showcased the gameplay before, because the gameplay of each build is the same. The only thing I'm updating for you guys is the Arche Tuning, and the modules are all pretty much the same, but this way you can just get a nice summarized explanation of all the different gun builds for Gley. In the past, we've also had a skill-based build, but I did not build it this time because I felt it was completely unnecessary. Alright? Especially because Restored Relic helps Gley farm faster than her skill-based build anyway. At least in my opinion. So, without further ado, let's get started. But before we do, one quick little thing. If you guys haven't already seen it, guys, I am currently making AI-generated music on SoundCloud, okay, on YouTube, and I'm also published on Spotify, Apple Music, all major platforms. All you gotta do is look for RealAsianRobot. You'll be able to hit my tunes there. For those of you that are interested in getting earlier releases of my music before it actually goes to official publication, you can check out either SoundCloud or my YouTube music channel. All right, all my songs are posted here first before they get put into albums, EPs, and then shipped out to all the music locations. So listen wherever you like, and thank you very much if you decide to support that. Okay, let's get started. So when it comes to Gley, the first thing that I'm going to go through is actually her reactor and external components. Why? Because you can apply this to any of her builds, and you can also adjust these as needed. All right, I'm just going to quickly go through all of them with you. You'll notice I'm using a purple reactor. This is because Gley does not rely on skill power in any way, shape, or form, unless you want to use a skill build for her, in which case you might want to adjust that. But what you're looking for the reactor is skill cooldown and skill duration up. This is the most important thing. The rolls must be as high as possible. Your skill duration, you want it to be a 0.1 roll minimum, and skill cooldown has to be a 0.07 roll minimum, okay? But if both are gold, you're gold, all right? That's what you need for the reactor. Next, I'm going to remove my cam for this so it'll be a lot easier, but basically for your external components, the Annihilation set is still what I use, okay? For your first item, you want to go hit points, fire resistance. Second item, hit point recovery modifier, chill resistance for your sensor. Okay. Annihilation memory, defense, electrical resistance. And for your annihilation processor, max shield, toxin resistance. This gives Gley the maximum amount of tankiness without sacrificing anything. All right. That being said, you don't have to use a full annihilation set, but just keep in mind that the rolls that I just described to you are what you want on whatever component you're using anyway. Okay, so at least make sure you have the same rolls, even if you don't go for a full annihilation set. But you need at least a 2-piece annihilation set for the duration increase. This is to help her third skill, increase sensory, last as long as the cooldown. Okay, now weapons you already know because there should be individual weapon build videos which you can consult, so I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to save you time. Let's go through all 3 of Gley's builds that I've built for her. All right. In fact, there's actually 2 builds because one of them is literally a 1 mod variation. But starting first with the launcher build, okay, this is what you're going to be using with launchers, as the name specifies. This is basically for farming, and it's usually one of the first builds that you will start with Gley because it is relatively easy to construct. Okay, here's what you're going to need. When you're using launchers, you can use explosive life if you want to help drop more life spheres to give you sustain. But if you don't have this module, it's totally okay. Like, the build will function perfectly without explosive life. You don't need it. But if you want to have it in there, you can. Okay, the main important thing is increase HP, stim accelerant. Okay, this is your base survival. Increase defense, okay, that'll help you survive a lot. Skill extension, maximize duration, nimble fingers, MP conversion. All of this will help your third skill last. You need the cooldown and duration to match up as closely as possible for maximized lethality. See, my cooldown is 9.8 versus maximized lethality 9.6. You want that. Why? Because when Gley's maximized lethality buff is on, she's got unlimited ammo. This is how you take advantage of so many different guns that are amazingly awesome, like Restored Relic, the shotguns, Last Dagger, all that. Okay? So you have a unleveled focus on non-attribute. This is really easy to get, and also you don't have to level it up, which saves you points, so you don't have to catalyze every slot if you don't want to. This will give you an extra cooldown of minus 6.1, and that'll help you get your increased sensory just perfect. Now, For me personally, I like to have HP Collector as well for a little bit of extra sustain. And the last is Accelerated Drive Shaft. You do not actually need this, but it's how you can create those hilariously fast rocket bombardments that I've shown you before. Basically, you can have this in there. If you do not want this, what you can do is you can just slam in a focus on whatever. Like, it could be anything. You'd have to pick one of the arcade types, but it could be just, as long as it's unleveled, like focus on fusion or whatever, you could just slam it in there. And this will actually bring increased sensory's cooldown to 7.4 seconds. Duration is 9.6 seconds. So you can just trigger it whenever you want to. And this will help you out if you choose to go down that path. But if you don't want to and you feel that a 0.2 seconds isn't a big delay, I would just slap in Accelerated Drive Shaft and go with that, because it can create some hilarious situations just by rolling. Okay? That is her launcher build summarized. You would use this with the Restored Relic or any other launcher, but Restored Relic currently is the best bang for your buck. Now, for her base gun build. This is her base gun build for rapid fire weapons. If the weapon you are using is a non-rapid fire weapon, i.e., you are using something that does not actually have rapid fire, you cannot hold down the trigger naturally and just shoot it. You have to use the toggle in the options of the game. You don't use Predator Instinct. But Predator Instinct works really well with the Last Dagger, so I usually keep it on the build anyway. However, keep in mind that for items that do not come under Predator Instinct, you will lose out on this. If you want to be safe, you can actually just remove Predator Instinct entirely, and your gun build will function just the same. All the modules are the same in the gun build, except that instead of Accelerated Drive Shaft, we put in Shot Focus. Shot Focus does not benefit launchers. That's why it doesn't exist in the previous build. But here it does. It benefits firearms. So as long as it's a firearm and it's not a launcher, you want to have Shot Focus in to give you that extra bang for your buck. All right? Everything else in the build is the same. I just happen to, instead of focus on attribute, again, it's the same, but I put in focus on electric unleveled just for the extra cooldown. My cooldown is still 9.8 seconds, 9.6 seconds duration, but basically it matches up. Everything is exactly the same as it was before. This is also because in this particular build, you don't have a drastic need for Accelerated Drive Shaft. Okay, so this is good for Void Erosion Purge, all that kind of stuff. And again, if you're going to use something like the Malevolent, or you're going to use a mixed build, you can take out Predator Instinct, keep everything else in it, and it will function just fine. Okay, it'll function just fine. So Predator Instinct would help buff up your Last Dagger by a little bit, but if you don't want this, it's totally okay. Okay, you can just go in without it. I will happily demonstrate this build later without Predator Instinct. The last one that I made is just for Colossi, and this one is a slightly lazier build. Okay, what you're gonna do is you are going to change HP Collector for Walk a Tightrope, and that's it. It's the same build as the gun build, but all you're doing is changing HP Collector to Walk a Tightrope. This is because Gley can lower her own hit points. You don't need conditional recharge. You can lower it down and then take advantage of Walk a Tightrope as soon as your hit points are 50% or lower. That's it. And that's literally the build. You can use this against Colossi to squeeze out a little extra damage during the period of time in which you're dealing damage. Right? This one is designed for survival, so it's much better for that. And literally, that's the build. That's how it works. Okay? Now, I'm going to demonstrate the gun-based build in the Void Erosion Purge 30 together with the Malevolent. So what we're going to do is, you might recognize this. This is Serena's Malevolent. It's the exact same thing that we had before. Okay, we're gonna use this, and I'm going to show you how it works. All right, so we're going to just move that into the first slot. Now, before we carry on, I'm going to give you guys some quick words on the Inversion Reinforcer and the Arche Tuning. Inversion Reinforcer, please adjust it based on the activity you are doing. Here, we're going to go into Void Erosion Purge 30, so strike point amplification, chill focus rounds, and of course, the evolutionary cutting mechanism for the Malevolent. In future seasons where you cannot benefit the Malevolent, maybe you can take something like recover the hit points every 30 seconds, or you can even take like biodensity augmentation. It's up to you. All right, but this is what I'm going to be using right now. For her fellow, please make sure that you use the Hagios Sheepdog, because this is the one that benefits Gley. You do not need the Vespers Hunting Dog, because Gley doesn't need ammo. All right, so keep your dog as the Hagios Sheepdog. Okay, all right. One last thing. let's go through the Arche Tuning. Okay, for the Arche Tuning, it depends on the type of gun you're using. If you are using the launcher build, this is how you will build it. The launcher build is specifically designed for Restored Relic, which takes advantage of the multi-hit. So we're going to have all the multi-hit stuff as well as many firearm attack nodes as we can, because they also come with explosive attack. All right, so this is what I've got. You also want to come down here and grab movement speed to help you speed through the levels a little bit easier. All right, so this is the setup that I have for the launcher specifically. Now let's move on to the next one. For the next one, which is guns that have crits, you might notice some similarities to Serena. Okay, you want to just grab this basic hit point here to give yourself a little bit more survival, but mostly you want to go down the left hand side and grab as much as you can. If you do not need the reload, right, honest to God, you can actually just remove all these and spend 2 extra points up here to grab that, and you can grab this as well. Something like this to give yourself a little bit more firearm attack if you do not need the reload, okay? I would personally do it, but again, the choice is yours. There aren't any much more firearm attacks, so you're just going to squeeze out a tiny bit more DPS, but in the grand scheme of things, that can also help you out. So this is what I would do. The choice at the end of the day is yours, and if you happen to have bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, you can spend the 3 points like this instead, okay, for a gun with crit. All right, this is specifically for a gun that crits. Now, for a gun with multi-hit, it's a bit different. You want to take all these nodes as much as possible. Again, if you don't need the reloads, drop this entirely, and you've got 3 more points you can play around with. But you'll notice that you can't really grab these 3 enhanced nodes, right? So what I would do is I just do something like this. Just grab a little bit of extra firepower, and that should work beautifully. All right? So you can do something like this. And in my personal opinion, it'll work really well. Okay, the choice is at the end of the day yours, what you want to do with it. But think about where you're going to be spending most of your skills and power and adjust accordingly. Like for me, with Gley specifically, I'm going to be focusing on getting through most of the hordes in the Void Erosion Purge up until the end. So I'm actually going to go for a gun with multi-hit rather than a gun with crit. I feel that the Last Dagger will absolutely slay the boss anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. All right, this is my setup, like I said, for all 3 types of Arche Tuning. And now it's demonstration time. So now that you've been updated on all of them, okay, let's just quickly double check. Gun with multi, we've got Malevolent ready to go. Inversion Reinforcer ready to go. Oh, and one quick thing about Malevolent. I tried double fire rate cores. Due to the fact that the Malevolent generates blades, unless you are running a very, very good PC and not streaming, unfortunately because I was streaming at the time, my frame rates dropped. So if you experience any frame rate drops, it's better to just have 1 fire rate core. Of course, 20% gold roll would be perfect, but we tried that out and that worked fine. When it had 2 fire rate cores and the FPS dropped, I was doing less damage because some hits were just not registering. This is not the same as ghost bullets, but it can create problems, so be aware of that. All right. Okay, Void Erosion Purge, solo demonstration. Let's go through it. Here we go. Now, Gley is not going to be as fast as Serena, all right? Serena is far superior because of her 4th skill, which is absolutely impressive, but Gley can still hold her own. All right. Here we go. So basically in every single encounter, just turn on your extra sensory and start blasting. Accuracy, nobody cares about that. Who cares? You've got unlimited ammo. All you need to worry about is how many shots you're firing. And how many shots you should be firing is as many as possible into the enemy. Alright? Gley felt so much better with the 2 fire rate cores, but as soon as lag started, yeah, it was a problem. When I'm filming a video, it's not too bad, but when I'm streaming, it is bad. So again, depends on your hardware and operating system. If your operating system is very good, please, by all means, put 2 fire rate cores on the Malevolent. And you are going to shred these guys like a blender. Alright, assuming, but you must have 0 FPS drops. The second you get even a single FPS drop, your damage is less overall. Alright? I mean, as it is already, even with this fire rate, you know, you can get close to having some FPS drops, which is problematic. So, yeah, just be aware of that. And remember, even though increased sensory lowers Glay's movement speed, here's the thing: you can actually just roll, because apparently rolling, for some god-awful reason, allows you to move at full speed. In fact, rolling speed, I think, doesn't change no matter how much movement speed you have. At least that's been my weird experience with it. So I could be wrong, of course, but yeah, whenever I've got reduced movement, I just roll, because the roll, as you can see, comes out just as fast anyway. So I can use it to gap close with Gley, rather than walking or trying to sprint or run anywhere. It'll work better. Like I said, you're not gonna be Serena, but you will be able to get stuff done pretty nicely. If you can be bothered, you can even choose, alright, to utilize the Last Dagger to finish off the elites. Like, you use this for the AoE segments where there's multiple enemies, okay? Then after they're all been chewed through and dealt with, you can actually swap to the Last Dagger and finish them off. That's something that some people do, you know, but I leave that as a personal choice. However, the good news is that due to the way this gun works, it can inflict attributes pretty well. So, due to that, you can actually freeze over enemies, preventing them from doing too much to you. Which again is very nice. The alternative, of course, is that you can just run through this with Last Dagger, but that one I find a little bit riskier, even if it is faster. That's because because that gun doesn't have AoE, so you are going to have to kind of take care of things on your own. At least this gun is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen my Serena run, and even though my timing is nowhere near the best, alright, it's still a pretty good timing, especially for a solo run. This doesn't get anywhere close to that, unfortunately. Gley is not Serena. She is just a Gley. But she can still be fun to play. If you want to give yourself a bit more of a challenge, you can try this style of clearing Void Erosion 30. Rather than worrying about the meta. Okay, finally made it to the last room. Yum, 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 yum. Okay, all clean. That's where the fun begins. Ah, the power of the Last Dagger feels so good. Oh no, I got shot. No. Which will happen if you just stand in front of the enemy like that, but that's fine. Whatever. There you go. So that's a quick demonstration of this, but all the other builds function the same as well. Alright, these are all your updated Gley builds. So thank you very much for watching this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you guys haven't already heard of them, these are our top supporters for April. They just got in there. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of the first few. Alright, first few for April. There we go. Oh my god, I've got to edit this because this is hilarious. Chester was recorded at 25, but for some reason I put $5. Lol. Okay, poor Chester. Sorry about that, broski. Okay, again. You. Random ad played on YouTube. You. There we go. Had to pull the list. Took a little bit. And only because I noticed the error. I don't like to leave errors in there. But anyway, once again, thank you guys so much. And here are the top supporters for April. Ta-da! Why is it not to dying? Oh, there it is. Okay. Top Super Chatter, Chester Lester. Top Super Chat list includes Craig Ricketts, D. Russ, and Jonathan Terry. Thank you guys so much. All right, you want to get on this list? Get in now because April is open early. All right? Y'all have fun. Enjoy. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!